It started on a Tuesday. Tuesdays were always normal, until this one. Leo, my younger brother, was the light in our home. Then suddenly, he changed. The smiles stopped. His eyes turned empty, like dark pools. We asked what was wrong. He wouldn't answer. He just stared through us. A shadow had fallen over him, stretching across our family. The silence was heavy. The air itself seemed afraid to move. The happy boy we knew was gone. In his place, a stranger. The house grew thick with fear. Even on warm days, it felt cold. The change was so complete, it didn't seem natural. Something had come into our home. This was just the beginning. We had no idea how much worse it was about to get. The silence didn't last. It was replaced by something worse. Words, but not Leo's. One evening at dinner, Mom asked Leo to pass the salt. He didn't move. Then, a voice came out of him. Low, guttural, not his own. She will not have it. We froze. Dad dropped his fork. Leo's face was blank, eyes empty. This became regular. Strange voices, sometimes whispers, sometimes growls. He spoke in languages we didn't know. I heard him in his room, switching between his own scared voice and the other, deeper one. The other voice mocked him, threatened him. Leo cried, pleaded, "Leave me alone." His appearance changed. He lost weight, grew pale, dark circles under his eyes. He looked sick, but doctors found nothing wrong. They said stress, depression, pills, did nothing. If anything, he got worse. It was clear this wasn't something a doctor could fix. It felt like a problem of the soul. The boy we knew was disappearing. The stranger was taking over. Sometimes Leo's eyes would clear. He'd whisper, "Help me. It won't let me go." Then, the emptiness returned. These moments were the most painful, a glimpse of our real Leo trapped inside. During one of these moments, Mom made a decision. If doctors couldn't help, we had to look elsewhere. We had to consider the unbelievable. The whispers spread. They weren't just from Leo anymore. We'd hear them in the house, faint, on the edge of hearing, a soft, sibilant sound from the corner. Nothing there. I started hearing my name, a low, mocking whisper. "Zach!" From empty hallways, behind closed doors. It was the same deep voice from Leo. It wanted us to know it was there. It wanted us afraid. The house felt contaminated, like an entity was living with us, moving through rooms, leaving cold spots and fear. Objects moved. A book fell. A picture frame turned. Every cupboard and drawer in the kitchen wide open one morning. Nothing taken. Nothing broken. Just open. A message. Leo's behavior grew violent. The silence was gone, replaced by explosive rage. He screamed, threw things, once hurling a chair across his room. We put a lock on his door at night for safety. Listening to him was torture, banging, shouting in that other voice, then weeping. The fear was constant, a knot in your stomach. You couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, always on edge. My parents looked like they'd aged 10 years in weeks. The house was filled with dread. We stopped having visitors. How could we explain it? Who would believe our home was under siege by something we couldn't see? The violence turned toward himself and us. We found deep scratches on Leo's chest and back. He said it did it to him at night. The marks appeared even when he was locked in his room. Then, he attacked Dad at dinner. Leo's eyes were not his own, filled with black hatred. He lunged, snarling, biting, with unnatural strength. This was a new line crossed. The entity started to show off. It knew things it couldn't possibly know. Family secrets, hidden shames. It used our pasts against us. This was more than mental illness. The house became a stage for its paranormal theater. Lights flickered, electronics turned on and off, the TV blared static. One night, every light bulb blew at once. We were plunged into darkness. And from upstairs, that horrible, mocking laughter. We were living in a horror film, but this was real. We were losing Leo. My parents knew they had to do something drastic. They had to call for help from people who understood this kind of darkness. Mum made the call, hands shaking. She turned to her faith as a last hope, calling elders from her church. She explained, voice broken, "My son, he's not himself. There's something inside him, a darkness." The decision to involve the church was heavy, an admission that we believed something supernatural was happening. Dad, the skeptic, struggled, but he'd seen too much. He agreed, When you're that scared, you'll try anything. Waiting for the elders was agonizing. The house seemed to know what was coming. The activity intensified. Whispers, banging, chaos. When the elders arrived, their presence brought a momentary calm. They listened, walked through the house, stood outside Leo's door, hearing the rage within. One turned to my parents. "You were right to call us. There is a dark presence here. We must confront it." The word exorcism was never used, but we all knew what he meant. The confrontation was set for that night. The elders asked us to prepare Leo's room, remove anything dangerous, strip it to a mattress. They brought a crucifix, holy water, salt, drew a line of salt across the doorway for protection. Getting Leo into the room was a struggle. The entity fought back, screaming, thrashing, eyes wild. Once inside, he stopped struggling, sat on the mattress, a slow, cold smile on his face. "You have no power here, old men." The elders began to pray, reading from the Bible. Leo writhed, screamed in that other voice, cursed, mocked, laughed. The temperature dropped. The lights flickered. The entity was manifesting, pushing back against the prayers. It was a battle of wills, light against darkness right there in my brother's bedroom. The confrontation went on for hours. The elders prayed, the entity raged, Leo's body contorted, his voice changed. Man, woman, child. The elders never wavered. They sprinkled holy water. When it touched Leo's skin, he screamed, the smell of sulfur filled the air. We stood outside, powerless, praying for it to end, praying for our Leo to be free. As the night wore on, doubt crept in. The prayers didn't seem to work. The entity grew stronger, feeding on fear. It got personal, screaming secrets at the elders, making them falter. The house itself seemed under siege. Doors slammed, footsteps ran, glass shattered in the kitchen. The entity wasn't just in Leo, it was in the house, all around us. The line of salt felt like it trapped us, not it. Panic overwhelmed us. We were watching a battle for my brother's soul, and our side was losing. The elders were exhausted, voices hoarse. The entity was tireless, mocking, screaming. At one point, Leo's head turned at an impossible angle. He looked at me, eyes black, and hissed, "You're next." The elders decided to stop. It was nearly dawn. They admitted they were out of their depth. We needed a specialist. Their retreat felt like surrender. As they left, the house fell silent. Leo slept deeply, but it wasn't victory, just a ceasefire. The entity was still there, waiting, and we were left alone with it once more. The days after the failed exorcism were eerily quiet. The violence stopped. The whispers faded. Leo slept for 2 days. When he woke, he was calm. Our Leo again. He remembered everything, described it as torture. We held him, cried with him, prayed it was over. But the peace was fragile. Leo was terrified to be alone, scared to sleep. He said he could still feel it, waiting for a moment of weakness. The trauma left deep scars. We contacted the specialist. The process was long. Interviews, evaluations. The church needed to be certain. Weeks turned to months. The entity stirred again. More subtle psychological torment. Leo had nightmares, woke screaming, claw marks back on his skin. The entity was playing a long game. The toll on our family was immense. Strained marriage, failing school, financial and emotional cost. We were isolated. Who could we talk to? Who would believe us? We were fighting a war on 2 fronts, inside our home, and against a world that would never understand. The story doesn't have a clean ending. The official exorcism eventually happened. It was long, grueling. Afterwards, things got better. Slowly, Leo began to heal, with years of therapy. Our family rebuilt itself, but the question always remained, what did we fight in that house? The church believed it was a genuine case of possession. They saw the evidence, witnessed the events. On many days, I believed them. How else can you explain it? But science offers another view. Psychological disorder, dissociation, trauma. Every supernatural event could, with effort, be given a scientific explanation. So we're left with the ultimate question: demon or disorder? Was my brother a victim of a spiritual attack or a catastrophic breakdown of his mind? We have our beliefs, our experiences, but no proof. The truth remains veiled, hidden in the shadows between faith and science, and we, the survivors, are left to wonder. What was the true nature of the evil that visited our home? It was a cold Tuesday evening in November, 2023, the kind of night when the world feels heavy and the air bites at your skin, when the city's usual hum is muffled by the relentless drizzle and the early darkness. The streetlights flickered, casting long shadows across the quiet Manchester suburb, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Rain battered the windows of a modest Manchester home, each drop echoing the tension inside. The storm outside was nothing compared to the turmoil within these walls. A storm that had been brewing for weeks, unseen by neighbors, unknown to the world. Inside, a family, mother, father, older brother, sat in anxious silence, their faces drawn with fear and hope. The room was thick with worry, every glance and gesture betraying the exhaustion of sleepless nights and unanswered questions. I was there to document what few ever witness. My camera felt small, almost intrusive, in the face of such raw, human vulnerability. I wondered if I was prepared for what I might see, or if anyone truly could be. At the center was Clara, slumped in an armchair, her eyes empty and ancient. She seemed both impossibly young and impossibly old, as if something had hollowed her out and left only a shell behind. Her presence was unsettling, a silent cry for help that words could not express. The family had tried everything: doctors, psychiatrists, specialists. Each appointment brought hope, then disappointment. Nothing worked. Every test came back inconclusive, every diagnosis fell short. The professionals left with furrowed brows and apologetic shrugs, unable to explain what was happening to Clara. Clara spoke in unknown languages, recoiled from religious objects, and showed impossible strength. Medical diagnoses failed. Her voice would shift, her eyes would darken, and sometimes she seemed to know things she couldn't possibly know. The family watched in horror as their daughter became a stranger before their eyes. Desperate, they turned to the church. Faith became their last refuge, a fragile hope in the face of the inexplicable. They prayed for answers, for relief, for a miracle. After a careful investigation, the diocese approved an exorcism. It was not a decision made lightly. The church demanded evidence, testimonies, and documentation before granting permission to proceed. The process was slow, but the family clung to it as their only chance. This was no movie. This was a real family, facing something they believed was not of this world. Their fear was genuine, their pain unmistakable. They were ordinary people thrust into extraordinary circumstances, forced to confront the unimaginable. The room was stripped bare, a cross on the wall, the only light in the gloom. Every unnecessary object had been removed, as if to make space for something sacred, or something terrifying. Clara hadn't spoken since the priest arrived. She sat motionless, her silence more unnerving than any outburst. The air was thick with anticipation, as if everyone was waiting for something to break. The silence was suffocating, filled with dread and unspoken questions. Every breath felt heavy, every second stretched into eternity. The family clung to each other, searching for comfort in the midst of their fear. Was their daughter truly lost? Was something else wearing her face? The questions haunted them, gnawing at the edges of their sanity. They wondered if they would ever get Clara back, or if she was gone forever. Father Michael's arrival changed everything. His presence brought a shift in the atmosphere, a sense that help had finally come. He was gentle, not imposing, but carried an undeniable authority. His calmness seemed to steady the room, offering a glimmer of hope where there had been only fear. He greeted the family with quiet reassurance, a beacon in their chaos. His words were soft, but his conviction was clear. He listened to their story, never judging, only offering comfort and understanding. He was here to confront the darkness that had invaded this ordinary home. As the night deepened, everyone knew that what would happen next would test the limits of faith, love, and the human spirit. Father Michael's preparation was methodical, rooted in tradition. He unpacked a purple stole, holy water, blessed salt, and the Rituale Romanum, the exorcist's arsenal. He kissed the stole, draped it around his neck, and opened the ritual book to the right page. This was not performance, but spiritual combat. He held a simple silver crucifix, heavy with meaning. Turning to us, he instructed, "Pray, hold your rosaries, focus on God." He sprinkled holy water, blessing the space, creating a spiritual barrier. The room became a sanctuary, a battlefield claimed for God. Father Michael's demeanor shifted, gentle priest to soldier of faith. Clara watched, unnervingly still. The air crackled with anticipation. The preliminary rituals were over. The true confrontation was about to begin. Father Michael stood before Clara, his hand trembling ever so slightly as he raised the crucifix, its silver surface glinting in the candlelight. The air was thick with anticipation, every eye in the room fixed on the priest and the young woman before him. He opened his prayer book and began the litany of the saints, his voice echoing through the dimly lit room. Each name he spoke seemed to carry weight, as if calling upon a lineage of faith stretching back centuries. His voice was steady, unwavering, each Latin name a stone in a fortress of faith being built around Clara. The ancient language filled the space, creating a barrier between the darkness and those who sought to drive it out. Holy water, drawn from a small silver vessel, was sprinkled on Clara. At first it seemed to have no effect, her expression remained blank, her body rigid, but as the prayers grew louder and more urgent, a sneer twisted her lips. Something deep within her was stirring, reacting to the relentless assault of faith. The family watched in terror, clutching each other's hands tightly. This was not the Clara they knew, yet for the first time they saw a glimmer of hope. The prayers were working, chipping away at the darkness. Father Michael shifted to the direct prayers of exorcism, his voice rising in authority as he held the crucifix inches from Clara's face, commanding the entity to depart. Execrucem Domini, fugite, partes, adversae. The ancient words rang out, sharp and forceful, as if slicing through the oppressive air. Each syllable seemed to strike at the heart of the evil within. Suddenly the room grew colder, breath visible in the air, as if an unseen battle raged all around them. The atmosphere was charged with tension, every shadow seeming to move with a life of its own. Prayers and holy symbols became weapons, wielded not just in ritual, but in desperate hope. Each gesture, each word, was a strike against the darkness. The priest alternated between solemn chants and forceful commands, making the sign of the cross over Clara again and again, as if to shield her from the evil that clung to her. The family, desperate and determined, joined in. Their whispered prayers rose in a trembling chorus beneath Father Michael's voice, adding their own faith to the struggle. The room was saturated with faith. Candles flickered, icons watched from every corner, and the relentless prayers formed a wall of light against the encroaching darkness. The battle had truly begun, and for the first time, hope flickered in the hearts of all who witnessed the struggle. The moment the crucifix touched Clara's forehead, the calm shattered. She screamed, a guttural, inhuman sound of pure hatred. Her body arched violently, eyes burning with malevolence. Her brother and father struggled to restrain her. Her strength was unnatural. She spat, snarled, her face twisted in fury. Then came a voice, not Clara's, but deep, rasping, and cruel. It mocked, cursed, and revealed family secrets, switching languages with ease. The entity was no longer hiding. It was exposed, provoked by the sacred. Occasionally, Clara's true self flickered through, tearful, terrified, fighting for control. These glimpses were heartbreaking reminders of the soul trapped inside. The screams and violence were the sounds of a battle for her very being. For the family, any lingering doubt was obliterated by the sheer force of horror that now filled the house. The air itself seemed to thicken, pressing down on everyone present, making it hard to breathe or even think clearly. The mother sobbed uncontrollably, her hands shaking as she clung to her husband. The father, usually so stoic, turned a ghostly shade of pale. He knew, deep down, that this was no ordinary illness or emotional outburst. The hatred radiating from Clara was utterly alien. Her eyes burning with a fury that seemed to belong to someone or something else entirely. It was as if a stranger had taken her place, and the family could only watch in terror. The entity's voice slithered through the room, revealing secrets no one else could possibly know, using them as weapons to wound and divide. Each whispered word was a calculated strike, designed to shatter trust and sow chaos. The brother flinched as a private failure was dragged into the open. Shame and disbelief warred on his face. In that moment, belief became certainty. There was no other explanation for such intimate knowledge. My own detachment, once a shield, vanished completely. Logic and skepticism felt hollow, powerless in the face of such overwhelming evil. I realized I was no longer just an observer, but a target as well. The unnatural strength, the impossible knowledge, the raw malice. It was a direct assault on reason itself. Every instinct screamed that we were facing something beyond human understanding. Our fear seemed to feed the entity, its laughter growing louder and more triumphant with every shudder and gasp. The shadows in the room seemed to dance, mocking our helplessness. But Father Michael had warned us. He said the demon would try to divide and conquer, to turn us against each other and break our spirits before the real battle even began. The family clung to their rosaries, knuckles white, their whispered prayers now transformed into weapons of hope and defiance. Each word was a lifeline, a desperate plea for protection. We were no longer just witnesses to the unthinkable. We had become participants in a spiritual war, bound together by fear, faith, and the unyielding will to survive the darkness that threatened to consume us all. As hours passed, fear transformed into something else. The family's prayers shifted from desperation to defiance. Faith became a weapon, forged in the presence of evil. The more the entity raged, the more real the sacred became. Every shriek at the crucifix, every recoil from holy water, was proof of their power. For me, faith was no longer abstract. It was a lifeline in a storm of malevolence. The need for a counterforce became personal. In that room, faith was the only anchor. The battle peaked in the darkest hours. Father Michael, exhausted but resolute, issued direct commands. In nomine Jesu Christi, decede ab hoc creatura Dei. The reaction was violent. Clara convulsed. The entity unleashed a final torrent of rage. The room flickered with unnatural cold and wind. Reality stretched thin. Father Michael began the final prayer, invoking God's ultimate authority. As he spoke Jesus' name, Clara went rigid. Then a long, unearthly shriek filled the room. It was the sound of something being torn away. Suddenly, it was over. Clara slumped, the tension vanished. Her face softened, exhaustion replacing hatred. The oppressive presence evaporated, the air felt clean. The battle was won. Silence fell, a battlefield after the fight. Clara slept deeply, her face peaceful for the first time in months. Her family wept with relief, exhaustion overwhelming them. Father Michael, drained but serene, packed his tools and offered a final prayer. He assured the family. Clara would need rest, but the entity was gone. The house felt like a home again. The family, battered but united, had survived the ultimate darkness. As I left, the world outside seemed fragile, the veil between realities thin. The experience left an indelible mark. The rational mind was humbled by what it had witnessed. The silence in that house was filled with the echo of a profound mystery. In the weeks that followed, the echoes of that night lingered. Clara slowly rebuilt her life, the emptiness in her eyes replaced by light. The family's faith was now unshakable, forged in battle. They understood evil as a real force, and the power of the light is undeniable. Father Michael returned to his parish, humbled and resolute. For me, the observer, the event reshaped my understanding of faith and evil. The question of demon or disorder became deeply personal. That night left a permanent imprint. A reminder that some battles are fought in realms unseen, and faith is sometimes the only weapon that matters. The story of Anneliese Michel is a haunting one. In a devout Catholic home in Bavaria, Anneliese's life changed at 16 when she began suffering violent convulsions. Her family was terrified and confused as her symptoms escalated. She saw demonic faces, heard damning voices, and recoiled from religious objects. Her behavior grew erratic, tearing her clothes, eating insects, and displaying unnatural strength. The family, deeply religious, became convinced she was possessed. Medical treatments failed to help, reinforcing their belief in a supernatural cause. Anneliese's aversion to sacred symbols and her violent outbursts only deepened their fears. She spoke in strange voices, used foul language, and sometimes needed several people to restrain her. Her parents saw their daughter slipping away, believing her soul was under attack. By 1973, Anneliese was suffering from depression and despair. The family's faith led them to seek a religious solution. Doctors' inability to help convinced them that only an exorcism could save her. They began searching for a priest willing to perform the ancient rite of exorcism. The Michel family's desperation grew as Anneliese's torment intensified. They believed the only hope for their daughter lay in the power of the church. The line between illness and possession blurred, and faith became their last refuge. Annalise's suffering set the stage for a battle between science and belief. The family's conviction would soon draw the attention of both the church and the medical community. The struggle for Annalise's soul was about to begin. The church was cautious about exorcisms, and most priests refused the Michel family's pleas. Medical professionals urged continued treatment, doubting any supernatural cause, but the family's persistence paid off when Father Ernst Alt agreed to help. After observing Annalise, Awe became convinced of possession and petitioned the bishop. In 1975, permission was granted, and Father Arnold Rentz joined Alt to perform the exorcism. The rituals were intense, with hours of prayers and commands for the demons to leave. The family recorded these sessions, capturing chilling evidence of Annalise's ordeal. News of the exorcism spread, drawing public and medical scrutiny. Doctors and psychologists saw a vulnerable young woman denied proper care. They argued that the rituals were worsening her condition, not helping. The case became a flashpoint, a collision of faith and science. Medical experts saw symptoms, not spirits. They publicly challenged the diagnosis of possession, insisting on scientific explanations. The Michel case became a battleground for two worldviews. The family clung to faith, while doctors demanded evidence and reason. The conflict escalated, with Annalise caught in the middle. The exorcisms continued, but so did the debate. The stage was set for a tragic confrontation between belief and medicine. Doctors traced Annalise's symptoms to temporal lobe epilepsy, a condition known for causing seizures, hallucinations, and behavioral changes. Her visions and aversion to religious symbols could be explained by abnormal brain activity. The demonic behaviors were seen as conditioned responses and psychological distress. Her superhuman strength was attributed to adrenaline during seizures or psychosis. Starvation and dehydration from the exorcisms led to confusion and delirium. Medical experts argued her decline was due to lack of nutrition, not spiritual forces. The different voices she used were seen as signs of dissociative disorder or psychosis. Claims of speaking unknown languages were debunked. She only used fragments of languages she'd studied. Doctors concluded her brain, under extreme stress, was piecing together memories and sensations. The medical narrative was clear. Annalise's suffering had a scientific explanation. The supernatural was unnecessary to explain her torment. Psychologists saw Annalise as a young woman under immense psychological and religious pressure. Raised in a strict Catholic home, she struggled with guilt and the fear of sin. Her internal conflicts, combined with neurological illness, created a mental health crisis. The possession narrative became a way to externalize her fears and anxieties. Trauma from her seizures and social isolation deepened her distress. Some experts suggested dissociative identity disorder, explaining her different voices and behaviors. The exorcism rituals themselves may have reinforced her symptoms, locking her into the role of the possessed. Suggestion and expectation from priests and family shaped her experience. Annalise's suffering was real, but it was shaped by her beliefs and environment. The rituals intended to heal her may have intensified her psychological torment. The line between faith and mental illness blurred, with devastating consequences. The psychological perspective saw her as a victim of circumstance, not the supernatural. Her tragedy was rooted in misunderstanding and misplaced faith. Science demands evidence, not faith. Claims of xenoglosy, speaking unknown languages, were tested and disproven. Alleged superhuman strength was explained by adrenaline and psychological states, not the supernatural. Medical imaging revealed brain activity that matched Annalise's experiences of visions and voices. These findings pointed to biological, not spiritual, causes. In Annalise's case, scientific analysis came too late. Audio tapes and medical records were reviewed after her death. Experts found no evidence of true possession, only symptoms of epilepsy, psychosis, and starvation. The scientific method provided a logical explanation, challenging the faith-based narrative. The tragedy was not a spiritual battle, but a misunderstood illness. The case became a cautionary tale about the dangers of ignoring science. Faith and evidence clashed, with devastating results. Annalise's story became a symbol of the limits of belief. Annalise Michel's story exposed the chasm between faith and medicine. Her family and priests saw a spiritual war, doctors saw a treatable illness. Each side was certain, and neither could accept the other's explanation. The family's faith led them to reject medical advice, while doctors condemned the exorcism as harmful. Occam's razor, favoring the simplest explanation, divided the camps. The tragedy was that no compromise was found. As Annaliese's condition worsened, both sides became more entrenched. Communication broke down, and Annalisa was left isolated. Her suffering became the battleground for irreconcilable beliefs. The case raised questions about the boundaries of mental illness and spiritual crisis. In the end, Annalise was lost between two worlds, with no one able to save her. The impasse remains a warning about the dangers of dogma on both sides. As the exorcisms dragged on, hope faded. Annalisa grew weaker, her body broken by ritual and neglect. Even the faithful began to doubt as the demons never left. The priests and parents faced exhaustion and despair, their convictions shaken. Annalisa herself wavered between belief and a desperate wish for relief. She reportedly chose to continue suffering, believing it would atone for others' sins. Her death in 1976 led to charges of negligent homicide against her parents and priests. The trial became a public reckoning of faith versus medicine. Medical experts testified her death was preventable. The defense cited religious conviction. The courtroom became the final arena for the battle that had consumed Annalisa's life. The trial ended with guilty verdicts but lenient sentences, reflecting the complexity of the case. The legal system punished negligence but did not condemn faith. Annalisa's story left a legacy of doubt and division. For believers, she remains a martyr. For scientists, a victim of untreated illness. Her case is cited as both proof of demonic possession and a warning against ignoring mental health. The audio tapes and her suffering continue to fuel debate. The story forces us to confront the limits of our understanding. The doubt surrounding her fate is her most enduring legacy. Annalisa's tragedy remains a haunting question at the crossroads of faith and science. Was Annalisa Michel possessed or profoundly ill? The answer remains elusive. Her story is a clash of faith and science, each with its own evidence and logic. The people involved were left divided, their beliefs unshaken by tragedy. The case shows that facts alone rarely change deeply held convictions. The debate over possession versus disorder continues worldwide. Advances in neuroscience explain much, but belief in the supernatural persists. Annalisa's story is a warning about the dangers of misunderstanding and division. It reminds us of the need for compassion, communication, and humility. The final verdict may never come, but her story endures as a testament to the mysteries of the human mind and spirit. In the end, Annalisa Michel's legacy is the enduring question: what do we believe, and why? Something was wrong with young Thomas. In Oakhaven, the change in the boy was all anyone could talk about. Once cheerful, Thomas now wore a twisted, unsettling grimace and avoided everyone. His parents, John and Mary, watched helplessly as their son became a stranger. Whispers spread. Some claimed he spoke in ancient voices, others saw him contort unnaturally. Fear gripped Elm Street, turning neighbors into wary strangers. Desperate, John and Mary began to believe the problem was not physical, but spiritual. They were willing to do anything to save their son from the darkness consuming him. Fear in Oakhaven changed everything. Parents kept children inside, and the Millers became isolated, their home a symbol of dread. John felt the weight of suspicion at work. Mary withdrew from friends. The local vicar, Father Michael, faced mounting pressure to intervene. The community demanded a miracle, not medicine. The idea of exorcism took hold, fueled by desperation and fear. For John and Mary, faith became their last hope. The town's fear demanded a supernatural solution. An exorcism was no longer a fringe idea, it was the only answer anyone could accept. The day of the exorcism arrived beneath a sky so heavy with clouds it seemed to press down on the house itself, casting everything in a somber, unnatural gloom. The air was thick, as if the world was holding its breath, waiting for something to break the silence. Father Michael stepped quietly into Thomas's candlelit room, his face set with grim determination. In his hands, he clutched a crucifix and a small vial of holy water, the tools of his sacred duty. The flickering candlelight cast long, wavering shadows on the walls, making the room feel both intimate and ominous. Thomas sat rigid on the edge of his bed, his eyes wide and unblinking, following every movement with a gaze that seemed to pierce the darkness. There was a wildness in his expression, a sense that something inside him was watching, waiting. The priest began the ancient ritual, his voice steady as he recited Latin prayers that echoed through the tense, candlelit air. Each word seemed to vibrate with power, challenging the unseen force that gripped the room. Suddenly, Thomas erupted, his body convulsing violently, screams tearing from his throat, his voice twisted into something guttural and inhuman. The sound was chilling, echoing off the walls and sending shivers through everyone present. John, his father, rushed to restrain his son, struggling to hold him down as Mary, Thomas's mother, sobbed uncontrollably in the corner, her face buried in her hands. The family clung to each other, desperate and terrified, as chaos unfolded around them. The ritual dragged on, each minute stretching into eternity. Father Michael's voice grew hoarse, but he pressed on, sweat beading on his brow as he continued to recite the prayers, refusing to yield to exhaustion or fear. Thomas recoiled violently from the crucifix, his face contorted in rage and pain. He hissed and spat curses at the priest, his words barely recognizable, as if spoken by another entity entirely. The room felt suffocating, the air thick with fear and anticipation. Shadows danced wildly on the walls, flickering with every movement, as if the darkness itself was alive and watching the struggle unfold. Hours slipped by unnoticed, the world outside forgotten. The family and priest were trapped in a relentless battle, their hope fading with each passing moment, as exhaustion and dread settled over the room. Faces grew pale and anxious, eyes darting to every shadow. The enemy was invisible, its presence felt but never seen, and the outcome of this night remained terrifyingly uncertain. The exorcism became a desperate struggle, a test of faith and endurance, with no clear end in sight. In that dimly lit room, hope and fear battled side by side, as the family clung to the belief that dawn would bring deliverance. Dawn crept into the house, not as a herald of hope, but as a reminder of another sleepless night. The first rays of sunlight filtered through the curtains, painting the walls with a pale, indifferent glow. For Thomas and his family, the new day brought only exhaustion, not deliverance. The air was thick with the weight of unanswered prayers, and the silence that followed was almost suffocating. The bedroom, once a place of comfort, now looked like a battlefield. Clothes were strewn across the floor, sheets tangled from restless tossing. Thomas lay sprawled on the bed, his face pale and drawn, his body spent from the ordeal. He was not healed, only emptied, drained by the struggle and by the hope that had slowly slipped away during the long, desperate hours. In the next room, Father Michael sat in silence, his head bowed in defeat. The ritual, performed with all the faith and conviction he could muster, had failed to bring relief. He felt the sting of helplessness, the burden of expectations unmet. For a moment, he questioned his own calling, wondering if he had misread the signs, or if his prayers had simply not been enough. Gathering his composure, Father Michael approached John and Mary, who waited anxiously in the living room. His voice was gentle but firm as he delivered the news they dreaded. "I don't believe this is a demon. Your son is ill. He needs a doctor." The words hung in the air, heavy with finality, shattering the last remnants of hope that a miracle might save their son. John and Mary sat in stunned silence, struggling to process the priest's words. Their faith had been their anchor, and now it felt as if it had been pulled from beneath them. The truth was hard to accept, but it was undeniable. They looked at each other, searching for comfort but finding only fear and uncertainty. The family gathered at the kitchen table, hands clasped tightly, eyes downcast. Their prayers had led them to a dead end, and the realization stung deeply. The faith that had once united them now seemed to offer no answers, only more questions. In the quiet, they mourned not just for Thomas, but for the loss of certainty that had guided them until now. As the morning wore on, John and Mary stared out the window, watching the world go on as if nothing had changed. But for them, everything was different. Their hope, once so strong, was now fractured. They faced a new, uncertain path, one that would require them to find strength in places they had never looked before. The house, once filled with prayers and whispered reassurances, was now silent. The quiet was heavier than any scream, pressing in on every room. It was a silence that spoke of loss, of fear, and of the daunting journey ahead. Father Michael gathered his things and left quietly, closing the door behind him with a soft click. He had not cast out a demon, but in his honesty, he had opened a different kind of door, a door to acceptance and to the possibility of real help. With heavy hearts but newfound resolve, John and Mary realized they had to seek a different kind of help. They picked up the phone, searching for answers in the world of medicine, determined to do whatever it took for their son. The next step would require courage of a different sort, a courage born not from faith alone, but from the willingness to face the unknown, together, as a family, no matter how uncertain the road ahead. Following Father Michael's advice, the Millers made their way to the city to meet Dr. Eris Thorne, a neurologist renowned for her compassion and expertise. The journey itself felt like a step into another world, a world where answers might finally be found. The hospital was a world away from Oakhaven's fear and superstition. Its bright lights, clean halls, and the steady hum of activity offered a stark contrast to the shadowy uncertainty that had haunted their home for weeks. Dr. Thorne welcomed them with a gentle smile and an open mind. She listened without judgment as the Millers described Thomas's terrifying symptoms, the sudden convulsions, the strange voices, the night terrors, and the failed exorcism that had left them more desperate than ever. She treated them as desperate parents, not fools, acknowledging their pain and confusion. Her empathy was palpable, and for the first time, the Millers felt truly heard. Her calm, scientific approach was a relief. Dr. Thorne explained that medicine often had answers for things that once seemed inexplicable, and that their fears were valid but not insurmountable. With gentle hands, Dr. Thorne examined Thomas, searching for medical clues that might explain his suffering. She asked careful questions, checked his reflexes, and observed his responses, her demeanor always reassuring. "I don't believe Thomas is possessed," she said softly, her voice steady and kind. "What you're describing could be the result of a serious neurological disorder. He may have a severe neurological condition, something that affects the brain's normal function and can cause frightening symptoms. But these are medical issues, not supernatural ones." Dr. Thorne patiently explained how seizures and other neurological events could cause the bizarre behaviors they'd witnessed. She used diagrams and simple language, helping the Millers understand that what seemed like possession could actually be the brain misfiring. She recommended a series of tests, an EEG to measure Thomas's brain activity, and an MRI to look for any structural problems. These tests, she explained, would help them see what was truly happening inside Thomas's mind. For the first time in weeks, the Millers felt hope rooted in understanding, not just faith. The fear that had gripped them began to loosen, replaced by cautious optimism. The healer they needed was not a priest, but a doctor, a scientist who could unravel the mysteries of the mind with knowledge and compassion. The path forward was uncertain and the answers might not come easily. But for the first time, the Millers felt they were moving toward the truth, guided by reason and care. Science, not ritual, would guide their next steps. In this new world, hope was found not in the supernatural, but in the promise of understanding, and in the hands of a different kind of healer. The tests were strange but illuminating. Electrodes mapped Thomas's brain activity. The MRI revealed a small lesion in his temporal lobe. Dr. Thorne explained, "This lesion disrupts emotions, memory, and language. It's the source of the storm." The EEG showed chaotic electrical spikes, evidence of temporal lobe epilepsy. The demon was a neurological disorder, not a supernatural force. The Millers finally had a name for their son's torment. The fear shifted from the unknown to the medical. They were no longer fighting shadows, but a disease. The diagnosis brought relief and new anxiety. The real enemy was epilepsy, and it could be treated. Understanding replaced superstition. Treatment began. Slow, methodical, and full of trial and error. Medications calmed the storms in Thomas's brain, though side effects lingered. Progress was uneven, with setbacks and small victories. Therapy helped Thomas process trauma and rebuild his sense of self. The family learned patience, celebrating each step forward. Months passed, the violent episodes faded. Thomas returned to the garden, his old self slowly re-emerging. The shadow lifted, replaced by cautious hope. The miracle was not dramatic but real. Science and compassion, not ritual, brought healing. the Millers found gratitude in the quiet dawn of recovery. Their ordeal forged a new, deeper bond. As Thomas recovered, the Millers shared his diagnosis with Oakhaven. They explained epilepsy, dispelling the myth of possession. Some neighbors were humbled, others clung to old beliefs. Mrs. Gable apologized, bringing comfort and pie. For most, Thomas's recovery was undeniable proof. The town's fear faded, replaced by relief and wonder. The story became a lesson in the dangers of fear and ignorance. The real demon was misunderstanding. The Millers emerged stronger, united by knowledge and compassion. The true exorcism was performed with medicine, patience, and understanding. Thomas's story reveals the tension between belief, fear, and science. When faced with the unknown, people seek answers in familiar stories. Even if they're wrong, fear can cloud judgment and isolate those who suffer. But science, compassion, and understanding can break the cycle. Dr. Thorne's approach offered truth, not just comfort. The real exorcism was knowledge, not ritual. The lesson: question fear, challenge old beliefs, and embrace evidence. Faith can comfort, but science heals. The power to cast out modern demons lies in empathy and knowledge. Shine the light of science into the darkness, and fear loses its hold.